We're getting started. Very sorry for the delay. We're trying to get management to give us some air conditioning in here. So I'm not sure how successful we're going to be. First of all, welcome everybody, particularly you newbies. Thank you very much for coming tonight. Linda will lead off our program with the pledge and the prayer. And also a special video. If we have Steve. Steve, you close by? Steve, okay.
Please all stand. Thank you. Precious Lord, we honor and praise you for all the blessings you have given us. We ask for forgiveness of our sins and guidance of our steps in life's journey. Keep us faithful and worthy of your grace. Lord, we ask you to bless all those that have fought the battles of our country and those that gave all. We ask you to especially bless all these candidates that are with us today and have them keep their promises. We ask you to guide them to do what is best for our community and for our country. Please ask them to demonstrate their godly wisdom to always do what is right in your eyes. We ask that you encourage them to resist the temptations that will lead them astray from your ways. We ask your blessings on all those present today, and especially for all our newcomers, that they will find the encouragement to help make this community a better place and to help get us through these trying times. Please give strength and knowledge for the BCP board to push through all the controversy and turmoil, and give us honor to be a beacon for the younger people that will follow us. You are our guarding light, Lord, and we follow you without question. We ask the faith to know you are our leader. Help us to be worthy, Lord. We ask all these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Now I'd like to have a moment of silence for one of our dear departed patriots who ran the kitchen nonstop for years and years, up until he got afflicted with diabetes and lost his leg. And it's the only time he ever missed a meeting. So if we can have a moment of silence. Okay. Thank you so much. His name was Jim Reed. I'm sure some of you remember him. Thank you. Now we'll do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, folks, we're going to be playing a video in a second. Our expert technician has to put the plug in. Linda.
What is this?
John, Arlene, whoever's in the kitchen, want to hit the lights, please. Lights off, please. Chop, chop. Yep, off. The other way. Oh, okay. Steve, is that good enough?
Oh, I love this. This is great. Did you see this before? This is great. I got chills.
And I had to start just my children and my wife. I take my lucky songs to be living here today, where the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be American.
Lights on, please. Yes, folks. I am proud to be American, and I know everyone in this room is. Folks, if that doesn't warm your heart, you have ice water running through your veins. Okay, got it going great. First, I'm very pleased to tell you that Berks County Commissioner Christian Leinbach is sponsoring tonight's meeting, Candidates Night. Christian has been a long-time supporter of the Berks County Patriots, and he has supported many of our meetings in the past. So let's give a great big thanks and welcome to Mr. Leinbach. Thank you. Okay, I need a couple of things for the record. COVID-19. We have taken safe precautions. We've done temperature readings. We tried to space chairs, but some of you move them around, so we have no control of that. Also, we have provided, for those of you that want to use them, masks, gloves, sanitary lotion, as well as wipes. If anybody feels uncomfortable at any time, we can understand if you want to leave. You are responsible for yourself. Also, for the record, when PA Health Secretary was asked about peaceful protesters not social distancing and not wearing masks, stated the governor has always said that people have the right to protest and to demonstrate and the right to free speech. And we are not going to restrict people's right to protest. Folks, there you have it. All our meetings are to be considered peaceful protests, protesting against Governor Wolf's unconstitutional dictates, violating our First and 13th Amendments. Now, folks, just so you know, I did say peaceful protest, okay? No fires, no looting, nothing like that. You laugh. There are some that actually try to change the definition of peaceful to include something like that in social protests. Now, we have a table over here. Just want to make sure. Steve, your friend, who is that? Bill Kohler. Bill, wave your hand in the back there. Okay. Bill was wounded in Iraq and received a Purple Heart. He's with us tonight. We're going to give him, not tonight, but at another meeting, we're going to give him some time to speak. Wave, Bill. Let's give Bill a big hand. Thank you for the service to our country, Bill. That's all of you. Very deserved. She's a applause. Okay, folks, I'm abbreviating some of my things tonight to go through a little faster, try to make up some time. If any of you have a location that we can put a 4x8 sign up to promote the Berks County Patriots, please let us know. Also, we have these signs here. We paid $5 to $6 for. We just want a donation, maybe $2. The most important thing to us is get these out. Get these out throughout Berks County and surrounding counties. So please take a couple of them with you tonight. Friends, relatives, whatever. Please help us support that. We are going to have 50-50 raffle. We're doing that. We will have that drawing at the end. We also have gun raffle tickets. Only $10. Don't need to be present to win. As I understand it, Joe confirmed we will have a raffle tonight. Is that correct, Joe? Fantastic, fantastic. And you started selling another one, correct? Great, great. Thank you, guys. Also, folks, I want to thank all of you for the donations you have sent in. it really made a big difference. It has turned our situation from bleak to manageable. So thank you all. Give yourself a big hand. We certainly like to do that. So other announcements. This Saturday, we're going to have a Trump rally and support the police rally. We're going to have it at 1 o'clock at the Berkshire. Noon to 1 o'clock. Thank you, Helen. That's why I told you to come up here. Good for you. Okay, it's going to be noon to 1 o'clock at the Berkshire overpass. Trump rally and support the blue. We need you there. Our record is 115 people. We want to beat that. Please help us, okay? Also, Helen just told me tonight that on the 31st, we're going to have another big Trump rally at the same location, correct, Helen? Wonderful. Folks, please there. This is going to be it. We need to do this. If you have any blue line flags, bring that. Anything that you have of support the police would be fantastic. Also, let's see, Helen gave me, let's see, the voter's guide. Helen, what do you want me to say? Let's see, this is going to be the member. Wait, when is it? Where's the date on here? That's just the guy. What did you want me to tell them?
Okay, so basically this comes from the Pennsylvania Pro-Life Federation, and it's the voter's guide for the candidates, and it gives you a listing of every single person running in Pennsylvania and what their stance is on the issue of life, which in my case, I believe that the issue of life is the most important issue that we're facing with 64 million babies dead. So to me, if you're not pro-life, you don't get my vote. Okay, so if you need any, I have packets of them in the back. They're packets of 50. I'm trying to get them to your churches. So I will put the box out, and if you think you can hand out 50 or more, just take a packet or two, all right? And you can hand them out this weekend and next weekend, okay?
I knew I shouldn't have gave her the mic. Thank you, Helen. You're wonderful. Okay. Two other announcements. Sam, please announce that Nikki Haley is coming to Reading on Saturday afternoon. If interested, please sign up. Email address with Sarah for an email with more details. Sarah, where are you? Sarah, in the back there, folks, on my right, on your left. Please stop over and see her. And one final announcement. The Trump Road Rally, which was scheduled for the 31st, has now been changed to November 1st at 1 o'clock. The staging area is going to be, I believe, at the same place, Holy Fairgrounds. However, what I want you to do is a young lady in the back, I want you to jump up to the table and wave your hands. Well, okay, that's good enough. Wait, so people know. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, sign up for her. We want to have a couple hundred vehicles, at least a couple hundred vehicles. Okay? Okay, Leah?
I need volunteers on the ground to help.
Okay, thank you. We need volunteers on the ground at the fairground and possibly, I'm not sure, on the road. Direct traffic. When you have a couple hundred vehicles at least, you got to stage them, get them in order, so we're going to need help. Thea, put me down. I will help, okay? Other people will see you.
What time?
It's going to be 1 o'clock, is that correct? 1 o'clock?
Yes.
On Sunday, so you have a chance to go to church, and then still get there. Oh, well, we're supposed to tell them that. I'm not going to.
Was that this Sunday?
Let's see, November 1st. November 1st.
Okay. Now.
Also, Helen, we need veterans pictures for our December meeting, which is December 10th. Get them. If you're a veteran, get them in. If you know a veteran, get them in to Helen so we can put them on a video and play that. Helen, they know who you are. Wave your hand anyways. Okay, that's Helen. Okay, folks. Per our bylaws, BCP board elections, I need to read the following. Per our bylaws, it is our duty to announce the following. The third Thursday in October at our general meeting, the election committee shall announce that nominations are open for the first day in October to October 31st. Nominations will be accepted in writing, email, U.S. mail to the chairman of the election committee and posted promptly on the BCP website. It is the responsibility of the nominating entry to ensure that their intent is communicated to the election committee and shall have their name and email available to be displayed on the BCP website. Self-nominations are permissible. Folks, we have 13 board members, there are 3 vacancies, 5 are up for election. We can certainly use your help. You can see Linda if you'd like to volunteer to be a board member or a committee person. See Linda back and we would sure appreciate your help. Okay, moving on, and as you can see, I'm really trying to speed this up because Rod gave me heck already. General election, November 3rd. I don't need to tell you the importance of this election, and I don't need to tell you that you need to vote. However, what I do need to tell you is that you must make sure, we must make sure that our votes count. And the best way to do that is for you to vote in person, not by a mail ballot. Now, I know some people may need to use an absentee ballot because they're physically unable to get to the polls or they're out of town. Hey, no problem with that. But for the rest of us, we need to vote in person, so I appreciate if you would do that. Last month, you remember I told you a little bit about granite farming and ballot harvesting? Well, let me read this to you. On September 24th, the Texas Attorney General announced 134 felony voter fraud charges in connection with the 2018 Democrat primary. The allegations included election fraud and mail-in ballot fraud, including voter harvesting. The AG stated, it is unfortunate reality folks, unfortunate reality that elections can be stolen outright by mail ballot fraud orchestrated by political operatives. That's why I say again, folks, the best way to minimize that is to vote in person. There's many horror stories that we've already told you about before. Unfortunately, I don't want to scare anybody, but I guarantee you, after this election is over, they're going to pale in comparison to what's going to happen here. Yes? Go ahead, quickly. I'm holding the mic.
Damn mic. Okay. Sorry. All right, I just talked to a poll, someone that is manning a poll that was at the training session today. She said that an announcement was made by the election services that if you got a mail-in ballot, okay, you requested a mail-in ballot, and you'd rather just ballot with the envelope to your polling place. Okay, so you gotta have both envelopes, all right? And then you can vote in person, all right? I don't know whether you knew that or not.
Right. Of course they did, Helen.
No, they didn't.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you. Okay, where am I? Okay, Helen.
Don, you forgot an announcement, honest. Sunday, this coming Sunday, and it just happened today, I talked to my daughter, who is a member of one of the committees for the Berks County Patriots, and she just informed me Wolf was defeated by the Sons of Sicily restaurant for the restaurants to be open. Wolf lost today. And Sunday there will be a meeting. That's in Palmyra. It's not in Berks County, but in Palmyra. They are going to have a gathering and a meeting this coming Sunday at the Sons of Sicily in Palmyra at the restaurant.
Okay.
The attorney that won the case will be there if you have questions.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, folks, as far as going to the polls and voting and so forth, there's some people don't want to go to the polls and vote in person because of COVID-19. I want to tell you that the few minutes that you're at the polls, put a mask on and social distancing is less of a risk than going to the supermarket for a half an hour, or going to your doctor, or going to your dentist, or big box stores, or even being here tonight, okay? Please, you want to make sure you vote in person, because you're really being intimidated. Okay, final on the subject. Are universal mail-in ballots coming to Pennsylvania? Universal mail-in ballots are those in which every name on the voter registration list is sent a ballot. So in Pennsylvania here, every name there, everybody gets a ballot. That would mean, folks, that ballots would be mailed to those people that are now residing in cemeteries, okay? It would also be mailed to people that have left the state. They would be mailed to people who have never voted. They'll be mailed to people who are not going to vote. Does anybody see a problem with this?
Absolutely.
Well, let me give you an example. Pennsylvania, using 2016 numbers, there was approximately 8 million names on the voter registration list. That means 8 million ballots would be mailed out. There were 6 million people that actually voted. 6 million back. 8 here, 6 there. 2 million ballots are floating around. Now let me ask you, do you think there are smart people, crafty people, unsavory people that could find ways to get hold of some of those ballots, manipulate them, and sway elections? Do you?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what? There are some people that don't think that's possible, okay? They have their head buried in the sand.
Yep.
Or higher up. Okay. I'm just about done, Rod. Okay, we must make sure only legal votes are counted. If the country ever goes to an all mail-in vote, the integrity of the election system would be lost. And really, folks, so would democracy. And finally, we have many challenges ahead. You know that our country is in turmoil. The presidency is being attacked from all quarters. And our country is more divided than at any time since the Civil War.
Thank you.
For those of us that believe in the Constitution, our flag, and what our founding fathers espoused, must come together, must do our part, and must save our country. Okay? Now, what's my train of thought? Okay. I personally believe that now, today, we are fighting for the soul and the survival of our country. I ask all of you, you need to do your part. We need everybody on the playing field, no on the sidelines, no bench warmers. The best thing you can do at this point, this stage of election, is get 10 people to vote. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, anybody. Get 10 people to vote. Now, I'm assuming here we're talking like-minded people, okay? If you happen to be talking to people who are not like-minded, hey, help them. Remind them that the election is November 4th, okay? Thank you. Thank you all. God bless you all. Rod, you're up. Okay, folks, the official Candidates Night program is just about to start. Rod Miller is our legislative chairman. He's also a founding father, so he will take over from here. Okay, Rod, you're on stage. Break a leg. I don't really mean that, you know.
Thanks, Sam. My time is up.
There you go.
Okay. I guess some of you people are aware there's an election debate at 9 o'clock. I'm sure you must have heard about it. We'll do our best to hold the line, although we're way behind already. But if time comes at 8:30 and you want to get home to say 9 o'clock, anybody gets up to walk out, I don't know why they're leaving. Not because of me, because something more important going on. Okay. Yes, it's my humble opinion that this is the most critical election in which I've participated. And I participated in every election since Calvin Coolidge. Well, not quite that far back. But actually, I voted in the past 14. This will be number 15. Kennedy Nixon, that was the first one that I participated. And to be honest, other than the Goldwater Johnson and the Reagan-Humphrey campaigns, I didn't really see enough to excite me at all because of the merger of the two parties' philosophies. In fact, in 1976, I left the Republican Party and became county chairman of the Constitutional Party. That was the Ford Carter year of election. Carter, the peanut farmer, you remember him? Well, that was then, this is now. Nothing can compare to the polarization of this country today. And I need not give you the litany of examples, but just to start things off, when President Trump was inaugurated, other than the former presidents Clinton and Obama, there was no Democrat elected official at that event. That was the beginning of the chasm. So anything after that was just more. You can make your own judgment in what I'm saying about what started this between the two parties. We've seen the anarchy in the streets, jeopardizing citizen safety, many of our cities, coincidentally governed by the party that's trying to take over the White House. But imagine for the moment, if President Trump wins outright, these anarchist organizations such as Antifa, although Biden said they're really just an idea group, but they'll step up to their insurrection. Or even if Biden wins, they'll be emboldened to continue feeling they're making an impact. So November the 3rd is not the end all. Setting that aside, rest assured, after November 3rd, citizens will be burning, and if there's any statues left, they'll be coming down. In fact, I keep wondering, if we can have a cameraman on people with a rope pulling down a statue, why do we have a policeman there to stop them? That's my property. Just don't get it. I'm not speaking about one party over the other. I'm just addressing these as an American with a great concern of my country. Might we be preoccupied with the anarchy on the streets in a divided country, that there's a crack in the door for the China Dragon to enter and fill that void. Keep in mind the pseudo-capitalists in America and Western Europe seeking the lowest production cost with no union, prevailing wage, or EPA to work around, are financing and feeding the dragon and their growing military. While most of my life is behind me, I still have a concern for those after me. While the focus is on the presidential campaign, do not overlook the Senate. According to Senator Mitchell, the Democrats are targeting 13 seats. 8 of those 10, CNN expects to flip, which are Republican held. You only need to flip 4 to regain the majority. There's 53 Republican, 45 Democrat, and 2 that caucus with the Democrats. My point, even if Trump is reelected and the House stays Democrat and the Senate flips, he won't have a Supreme Court to approve any nominee, which is why he's pushing ahead, and that opens the door to rubber stamp what Congress wants. While a court will be expected to rule on majority on the constitutionality, enter another liberal onto the court, or they might pack the court. Enough said there, and that's the end of my venting. That the chaos is really above my pay grade. So let's get on with the program. We have incumbents and we have candidates from the Pennsylvania House up to and including the congressional race. And of course, incumbents are here to defend their job. The good news is we have a lot of candidates. The bad news, we have 2 hours to get in the whole program. There are 2 offices whereby we have both the incumbents and the opposing party candidate, but due to time constraints, we'll have a very modified version of a debate for those 2 offices. All other races have only one candidate or one party. Consequently, we'll have each candidate state their case, and hopefully they'll consume all their time. They won't consume all their time. And we'll have some limited time for Q&A from both the moderator and or the audience. That portion of the agenda will be chaired by Carol Gardeghi, our constitutional class professor. As to the audience, the ground rules. Every candidate will command its deserved respect. I expect no undertone discussion during their presentation, nor out loud comments with the amount of candidates, and will be limited to the Q&A. Q&A from the floor. And we'll try to get some of those questions on the table. We'll have a roving mic be handled by Paul Broker. And anticipating there'll be no mic wrestling because of the limit. Ask your questions. You can phrase it to some degree, but get the questions on the table. And we're stuck with one mic tonight, we have a problem. So the mic's going to be running up there, running back here, and we'll have to figure out how that goes. We have a timekeeper, Ed Bender. Ed will flag a warning to speakers. We'll give them whatever seconds before their time is up, and I'll flag that. But he'll throw up the flag. If their time is totally up based on the agenda, he'll give a bell. If they exceed the bell, you'll hear the gunshot. So the ground rules. Unlike Chris Wallace, I will be fair. Maintain control, and 3 people won't be talking at the same time. We'll get up to 3 minutes for opening comments, followed by Q&A issues that I will ask, and time permitting, a question or 2 from the audience. The other races whereby both parties will have a candidate in U.S. Congress, which is the 9th district. Due to the late replies, they were at a campaign debate earlier this evening, so we'll sneak them in at the end of the evening. Give them each equal time at the mic, and hopefully we'll have a couple of questions for those 2 gentlemen. Okay, having said all that, will Mr. Knowles and Mr. McCone work their way up front? We're going to start off the program with a semi-debate. Now, two chairs for the candidates. We apply social distancing. Thank you, gentlemen. They can have their 3 minutes to speak as whatever they feel is important. However, to reduce some of their time, Jerry Knowles is a member of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives running for re-election in 124th, which consists of Berks, Schuylkill, and Carbon counties. Lives in Tamaka with his wife Lorraine, and we'll welcome Jerry. His opponent, the Democrat Taylor Picone, running for the same House seat. He resides in Harrisburg with his wife Carrie and 4 dogs. and 2 cats. And their brand new baby boy. All right. Welcome, Taylor. Okay. We'll start out with giving each candidate 3 minutes to address whatever they wish to address. And we'll start with the incumbent Knowles, but we'll both get the time.
Thank you very much. It is certainly always a pleasure to be here. I can't believe that you guys are here since 2009. I mean, over a decade. Commend you for that. I don't think I need to go through my qualifications. I know that many of you know me, and I know that you follow my votes, and that's very important. But what I'm going to do is I'd like to list the endorsements, because I think it's very important. Under the category of law and order, I have the FOP Lodge 13, which is the lodge that I belonged to when I was a police officer in Tobacco. FOP Lodge 65, which is the state troopers. The Pennsylvania State Troopers Association, and I'm proud to say that Sheriff Eric Wheaton has also endorsed me. In terms of protecting gun rights, I have an A rating with the NRA, and I have their endorsement, and I also have the endorsement of the Firearms Owners Against Crime. In terms of protecting the unborn, which is the #1 issue on my agenda, I'm very proud to say that both that issue as well as family values, I have the Pro-Life Federation and the Pennsylvania Family Council. And with my small business background, I have the PA Chamber, the NFIB, the PA Farmers, the PA Coal Alliance, the PA Realtors, and the PA Builders. And I am very, very happy to have those endorsements. I want to talk very quickly about this election. Some of my opponent's colleagues in Harrisburg think that we are crazy when we express concerns about voter fraud. And some of his friends in Harrisburg on the other side of the aisle think we're crazy. They think we're trying to steal the election. There's no voter fraud. Well, guess what? There is voter fraud. I'm going to show you this book right here. 300 pages with 1,088 proven instances of voter fraud in this country. Last night on the news, there was someone arrested for voter fraud up in Lucerne County. Look, I have a lot of confidence in the boards of elections. It's Google as well as Burks and Carter. It's Philadelphia and Pittsburgh that scare the hell out of me. So here's what I'm going to tell you. During the course of this election month, and thanks to our governor and our Democratic Pennsylvania Supreme Court, we have an election day now, we have election month. But thanks to, I want you to be very vigilant. When you're at the polls, go with your gut instincts. Because if something doesn't look right, and if you think it's not right, there damn may well be something going on that should be going on. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jerry. We'll now hear equal time from Mr. Ricone, and I want to tell you, my heart's out to you. You know this audience is to the right and center. You can accept that, and I can just appreciate how Jerry would be a little uncomfortable if the Democrats ran sponsored something like this. So I give you all the credit in the world for that.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be here with all these fellow patriots, and since it was brought up, yes, I realize the audience in this room is probably not a whole full of people who are planning on voting for me as a Democrat. But one of the things that inspired me to run is that we need people to go to Harrisburg, to go to Washington, D.C., who understand that good ideas can come from anybody. We have too much gridlock going on, and I'm not uncomfortable standing here in front of you today because every voice in this district matters. It doesn't matter if you're an I, an R, a D, or frankly, if you don't vote. You live in the district and decisions that get made by the people in Harrisburg impact you every day. And you have a right that no matter who represents you, no matter what party they belong to, you have a right to have a dialogue with that person. And I'm proud to come here tonight. I'm frustrated that unfortunately, my opponent has not come to some of the Democratic events. And I wish that he would, because those folks need to hear from him. I'm running because there's a number of issues that face our community. And when it all boils down to all these issues that we're talking about, it boils down to a need for proactive leadership. We need elected officials in Harrisburg and in D.C. who are going to solve problems not just for the next election, but for the next generation. I had a boss once in the military who told me that a courtyard common to many is swept by none. Meaning when we think somebody else is going to fix the problem, we leave it alone. That's not the legacy I want to leave for myself, my family, my son, my community. I want our legacy to be one of that we stopped, and we picked up the broom and we started sweeping, and we did it together. For 14 years, I've had the honor to wear our nation's uniform, and I continue to serve with the Pennsylvania Guard to this day. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made. I've been on the streets of all our communities in times of natural disasters, in times of civil unrest. Most recently, we spent 6 months on orders in response to COVID-19 and in Operation Protect PA in response to the civil unrest going on in our communities. We delivered over 500,000 meals to our community members in need. We delivered PPE and all sorts of supplies to folks throughout that time. And it's been my honor to do that and serve in that capacity and stand shoulder to shoulder with my fellow veterans and with our law enforcement officers out in the community. There are a number of things that we need to address, as I mentioned before, and one of the things that that's important to me is going to Harrisburg to work in a collaborative fashion to do things like cap prescription copays. Because cancer, diabetes, these things don't care if you're Republican, Independent, Democrat, or don't vote. No hardworking Pennsylvania family should have to make a decision between rationing their insulin and affording a car payment, or carrying around an expired EpiPen like one of my soldiers does because he can't afford his car payment if he buys a new EpiPen that month. Those are the types of things we need to address, and it takes collaborative leadership to do that. If elected, my commitment is to serve the people of this district fairly and honestly. We're not seeing that anymore, and we need to do something about that. So my commitment is to all of you that I will be available all of the time. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate both you candidates holding line on the time. As we said, we started late. We're trying to sneak in what we can. Our intention is to have a semi-debate. We're not going to go back and forth to any degree due to time. But I got two questions that are on my mind for a long time, and I'm going to have each of you both answer the same question in turn. And the first question comes to mind is the pension system in Pennsylvania. Article 2, Section 8 of the Pennsylvania Constitution states, a legislator is entitled to salary and mileage and no other compensation whatever. Continuously, there are politicians declining the pension for one reason or the other, and others probably locked in even before they serve. So with that in mind, hopefully you can get a 1-minute answer from each of you where you stand on the pension system.
Well, I want to be upfront with you. I am in the pension system, and many people would say, why would you say that? You're crazy, but I want to be upfront with you. But I think it's important for you to know that decades ago, I began to work for the House of Representatives as an employee for Dave Argel, and I was presented with a benefit package which included the pension. I will tell you that at that time, the pension was in much better shape, and quite frankly, when they told me I had a pension at the time, it really didn't matter. I was young and I really wasn't even thinking about it. But I think I want you to know that when I ran in my first election, I promised people two things. I promised people, number one, I will not take a state car. Number two, I will not take per diems. I haven't done that. When I'm in Harrisburg, I drive, I get my mileage. If I stay overnight, I get compensation for whatever it costs. It's very similar as to what you get when you're in today's business. And I'd love to talk about the things that we've done for the pension, but this guy just belled me. I guess what we're saying is you're not in the system yet, so my question is, would you intend to go in the system, or you have objections to the system? And that would be your take on the question.
It's a good question because as we, in the wake of COVID-19, we face quite a big budget problem, and unfunded pensions is part of that problem, and the pension system is part of that problem. And as a new member in the House, I would elect to stay out of that program, because I think if we're going to go to Harrisburg and we're going to have to make some tough decisions. In the wake of COVID-19, Pennsylvania is essentially like a family that had a spouse lose an income. We can't keep spending the same way we've been spending. We have to make cuts like a family would, no different than a family in Pennsylvania would have to do. And then we have to source some new income. We have to go find a new job, so to speak. But I think I do not believe, after 14 years in the military, I do not believe in do as I say, not as I do leadership. So if I'm going to go to Harrisburg and I'm going to take away money and funding from programs for people in Pennsylvania, it needs to start with the representatives. It needs to start with the senators. We have to lead by example. Things like not taking per diem, that's easy to do for folks who are local, like Jerry and I are. What I would suggest is looking at a system similar to what I had as a federal technician, where you have a base salary and then you have different locality pays based on where you live and the cost there. So I think there's a lot of savings that can be done, and we need to lead by example.
Okay, second hardball question. California is the most expensive legislature government in the nation. Pennsylvania is second most expensive in the nation. That's my research from 2 years ago when I gave a presentation up here. Things might change slightly, but it's pretty near. However, the size of the legislature in Pennsylvania has it where, per capita wise, Pennsylvania is the most expensive government in the nation. And the question to the two candidates, starting with Mr. Bacone, is where do you stand on the size of the legislature?
So I support efforts to reduce the size of our legislature, and as I just talked about, reducing the cost of our legislature, because again, in the wake of COVID-19, we have to lead by example. The composition of our state legislature is one that requires some attention. I know that efforts have been made to reduce the size of that, the body, which we need to get more people involved. We need to elect leaders who are not only just going to sponsor that legislation, but explain to other representatives why we need to vote for that, and why we need to make cuts starting with ourselves first, and reduce some of the fiscal problems here in Pennsylvania in terms of the cost of our state legislature. They do a lot of good work. It's important. I don't believe that our state should change to a part-time legislator. I think the full-time system is a good thing. But we also need to talk about some other adjustments there within the composition of the legislature. Things like term limits, something my opponent does not support. Because elections are not term limits when you don't have an opponent for 8 or 12 years. That doesn't count as a term limit. So we need to do some things there to make adjustments.
You just missed the shot. Okay, Jerry, you're the accountant. Where do you stand on the same issue?
Well, I want to thank my opponent for telling everybody how I feel. That's very considerate of you. I take it, Taylor, that you would be a co-sponsor of my House Bill 153, which, if it had passed, and it's a very complicated, complex thing, basically what it has to do is it has to go through two sessions. It has to be identical in both sessions. It has to pass. We did our best to do that. Unfortunately, I will tell you that towards the end of the process, two of my colleagues, Republicans, by the way, skunked me and stuck it to me, and as a result of that, it failed. But the whole purpose of that was to give you, as the citizens, the opportunity to vote on whether or not there should be 203 or 151 members of the House. I also co-sponsored a memo dealing with reducing the size of the Senate. If we could have made that happen, we would have saved somewhere around 25 $25 million. More importantly, we would have set an example. We would have set an example, leading by our example. Thank you.
Okay, here's a problem as you heard earlier. We only have one mic. I was going to try to get questions out of the audience, but it's going to be difficult. However, there are two key points that I made: pensions, size of legislature. Does anybody out there have a real key point that's worthy of shouting out to the candidates and at least get one additional question in? Anybody? Show a hand. How about in the back there? I see a hand up. In there, one of them.
Where? Stand up. Gun control. Gun control. Specific.
Okay, so my question is...
No such thing as gun control. My gun never got out of my person.
My question is, with all that's going on in Harrisburg now, and you have little issues like someone who's opening up PA, that type of thing, and your constituents are constantly emailing you and talking on the phone and trying to contact you because maybe the bill that is before them is a Republican bill and you're of the other party. How do you handle that situation? Do you stick with your party line or do you vote to what your constituents want?
Okay, thank you for the question.
Yeah,
What was your name?
My name's Sherry.
Sherry, Taylor. So the short answer to the question is no, I don't stick with the party line. I think that there's a problem in politics today where we think that we have to believe everything that our party says. And party loyalty is fine to an extent, but it shouldn't dictate everything that we do. And one of the things I talked about in my opening remarks is being available to people. So one of the commitments I'm making to the people in this district, if elected, is that I will hold a town hall monthly in this district. You guys meet monthly, correct? I will come to this every month. If I can't be here, somebody from my staff will, because when this many people in a community get together and share ideas and concerns, your elected representative ought to be in the room to hear them. I don't believe in following party lines. I do not think that the governor handled this pandemic perfectly. I think there's a conception that because I'm a Democrat, I think he walks on water. I don't. There were plenty of mistakes and missteps. I lay some equal blame at the House and Senate as well for not working as adults to collaborate together. I think both those branches of government have some fault here. One of the things that is important to me is the availability to hear from my constituents, because the letter at the end of my name does not define everything that I am or how I will vote on everything. I believe in hearing from the people, and that's why I'm available, and my opponent has left Facebook, doesn't have a website. My information's out there and available to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, I was really wondering who was going to show up tonight. I was wondering if it was going to be the moderate Taylor Picone or whether it was going to be the ultra-liberal Taylor Picone. It's obvious to me that we had legislation and the governor vetoed it. And guess what? We couldn't get any cooperation from the Democrats in overriding the veto. So, Taylor, you may be the exception, but we didn't get a lot of help from any of your friends from Philadelphia, and from the liberal side of the. Look, I don't want to hold this up, but I would ask you to do this. Take a close look. He mentioned Facebook. Take a close look at what he believes in, how he feels about the right, killing the unborn. I would ask you to look at that. Look at how he feels about defunding the police, because he is contrary to what he's telling you. And we sent flyers out, and they pretty much depicted where he's at. And each and every one of those things on those flyers can be documented. So be careful what you're hearing, and just be careful what is really going on. Thank you.
Okay, that is our only semi-debate for the evening. The rest of the candidates, the opponents, have declined to be here. So, I want to thank both of you gentlemen, and hopefully we've kept it fair and above board, and everybody got a fair shake. And thank you again. we're now going to go to the portion of the evening where candidates will address the issues as they see them, and hopefully we'll be able to save some time here. But as it goes, we're behind, but we're going to try to make it up. So hopefully Carol will speed things up. And I spent too much time up here. But Carol will handle the individual candidates.
Well, we really wanted to know where they stood on real estate tax.
Okay, thanks, Rod. All right, I'm going to be introducing the individual candidates. And while I'm saying this, Barry Joswiak, work your way up this way because you're first. Okay, I'm going to give each candidate 3 minutes. We have a lot of them. If we each get them 3 minutes, that's going to be enough. Maybe we'll have time for a question after their 3 minutes. And as I introduce each candidate, I will be letting them know who the next one is. So when Mr. Joswiak is done, Jim Oswald is next. So if you can work your way up here, you'll be next, and we won't have to waste time watching you walk up. Okay, we're going to hope that there's time to ask a question. I want them to tell us as concisely as they can what they believe and why we should vote for them. Mr. Joswiak. Oh, no, wait, little intro here. Forgot that. Okay, Republican Barry Joswiak is running for a re-election to the Pennsylvania State House representing the 5th District of Berks County, which consists of many townships. Barry and his wife Margie live in Womelsdorf and have a daughter. Welcome, Barry.
Let me make a little correction. I live in Burnville. My opponent's from Womelsdorf. Anyway, I'm running for re-election for the 5th District. I'm going to try to be fast because I cut my 6-7 minute speech to 5, now it's 3, so I don't want to get shot. But just to let you know, I'm a veteran of the Navy. I served in the state police, as most of you know that, for 25 years. I'm sheriff for Berks County for 12 years. And I've been in the legislature for almost 6 years. I'm on the Judiciary Committee, which is a very powerful committee in Harrisburg. I'm the Vice Chair of Fish and Game. I serve on the Commerce Committee, and I'm also on Liquor Control. And I'm also the Chairman of the Law Enforcement Caucus. I got to tell you, this is crazy times in Harrisburg. We fight with this governor every single day. You know, and everything he does, he violates your rights. He locks you up. He tells you you can't go to work. Then he tells you you're going to get unemployment, which you don't get. We have 4 million people out of 12 million people right now out of work in Pennsylvania. They're starting to go back. And you know, you hear this answer, there's 850,000 people applying for unemployment. What they're not telling you is that's first-time people. That's not everybody asking them to be unemployment benefits the second time or third time. But I'm going to tell you, if you like wearing masks, if you like all these restrictions, and you like socialism, I hate socialism. I will never vote for it. And I tell you what, I stand up to this governor. As a matter of fact, I signed on to it. He's done things against the people of Pennsylvania that he riled me up. I got to tell you, a couple things. He called me a coward. He called all of us a coward. I said, you know, I was a state trooper and a veteran. We're not cowards. Where were you? You ran off to the Peace Corps. He really teed me off. I mean, I sent him a letter. It went viral on Facebook. My granddaughter said, put it on Facebook. I did it. It was really good. So, you know what? We really got to balance the virus and people's livelihoods. That's the trick here. Just yesterday, we tried to do a veto override, open up the bars and the restaurants. We needed 135 votes. We had 133 to 69. If Tom Calderon and Mark Rossi, 2 Berks County Democrats, would have voted for that, we'd have had it. We'd have gotten it open. But they did a party line vote. So, you know, I tell you something. I defend the Constitution, the United States and the Pennsylvania Constitution every day in Harrisburg. And especially the Second Amendment, because on judiciary, we get those 60 and 70 anti-gun bills that come in here every session. And it's unbelievable the ideas that these people have. So I want to tell you, we're not going to defund the police, and we did some police reform bills, but we did this as well. I guess I'm done. We did balance the budget without raising your taxes, and that's important. Thank you.
Stay there, bro.
I want to ask
I
you,
lost my.
as an incumbent, I have been to many organizational meetings, and we talk about the school property tax being eliminated. Everybody, every representative and senator in Berks County says they're for it, but it's not happening. Why isn't it happening?
Because of Wolf.
Well, I can tell you this, every Republican incumbent in Berks County wants to eliminate the property tax. A lot of people say they're going to do it, and you know what? When it comes time to count votes, we don't have the votes. And it's some Republicans too, I got to tell you, the votes just aren't there. We actually tried to freeze the property tax and couldn't get that done. Freeze it, not do anything else. It's amazing. There's some members in the central and western part of the state that just, they don't want to do it. And I don't get it. I want it to be done. That was my main reason for going to Harrisburg. And I think when Representative Maloney gets up here, he might touch on that a little bit himself. That's one of the things he was going to talk about.
Thank you. All right. We're going to move on to James Oswald, and Vince Gagliardo, you're going to be next, so work your way up here a while. Okay, Republican James Oswald is a candidate for the Pennsylvania House seat in the 126th district, which includes parts of Reading and 6 townships. He lives in Lower Alsace Township with his wife of 34 years and his daughter. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. A little bit about my background, like Barry. I served 20 years in the United States Navy Seabees. I've been 30 years I spent with the local fire department and ambulances as a firefighter and EMT. I've been a 30-gallon blood bank donor, 15 years as a Lower Alsace Township supervisor, and 12 years on Central Berks Police Commission. So I've seen a lot of things. I see a lot of things, how the state has and hasn't affected us on a lot of things. And that's one of the reasons I want to go to Harrisburg. My opponent, Mark Rossi, if you look at his history, he's very self-serving. He spent 7 years of taxpayers' time and money to pass one bill. Once that bill was passed, he personally filed a lawsuit against the Catholic diocese to line his pockets. When the 2017 pension reform bill came to a vote, he voted no. When it passed, he opted to keep his defined benefit plan instead of going with the 401k hybrid plan, which would save taxpayers money. And now I find out from numerous state representatives and about a half dozen of his friends that he's only in it for 2 more years to lock his pension, and then he wants to move to Florida. If that's the case, what do you think he'll do for us those next 2 years other than just ride the time out? Excuse me. I'm 100% in favor of House Bill 76 or any other similar bill that would eliminate property tax. I'm for more financial support for fire and EMS squads, because if these volunteer units go out of business, you think your taxes are high now. When you start paying union wages for those things, you will really see what your taxes are going to be. I'm also in favor of taking the money that they've been giving to the state police out of our infrastructure repairs and putting it back into infrastructure, because we need to fix our roads, because with what our fuel tax is, we should be driving on roads of glass, and we definitely are not. So I'm pro Second Amendment. If you look at the NRA rating, I got a C rating due to a clerical error, but I am endorsed by the Gun Owners Against Crime. I got an A rating from them. So don't believe everything you read. If you go to my website, if you have any questions about that, you can go to my website, contact me. I'll be more than willing to talk to you about that. As far as the vote for the override veto, my opponent, Mark Rossi, was one of the no votes. I live in Lower Alsace Township. We're a bedroom community with a handful of restaurants. These restaurants have lost, one of the restaurants has lost almost $750,000 in the first 6 months of the year. I have another restaurant that I'm friends with the owner, who lost $1 million in the first 6 months of the year. These people, you know, I understand COVID is real, but there's a fine balance you can run between safety and opening these restaurants up. We're not saying we want to open up to 100%, but we need to let these people make money because, you know, you used to hear the term trickle-down economics. Well, trickle-down economics will work the same way as businesses close. Thank you.
Does anybody in the audience have a question for him? Anybody have a good question? If not, I'm going to ask him. All right. Where do you stand on right to life, and would you vote for a heartbeat bill?
I don't know what the heartbeat bill is, so.
Heartbeat bill is that you could not abort the baby if it had a heartbeat.
Yes, I would support that bill. And I am pro-life.
Thank you. Okay, next is Vince Gagliardo, and let me see. Is Jim Cox here? Okay, Jim, you're next after Vince. Okay, Republican James Oswald. No, wait a minute. Reading the wrong thing. I have my notes in order, I'm just not following them. Okay, Republican Vince Gagliardo is running for a seat in the Pennsylvania State House 127th District, which consists of part of Reading and Kenhurst. Vince, his wife Laura, along with his daughter and his rescue dog Bindi, reside in Kenhurst. He also has 2 grown sons who live in the area. Welcome, Vince.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I know some of you up here and a couple of you are new and stuff like that. The reason I'm running for this office is I have grandchildren now. And I want to make sure that there's a country for them to grow up in. I mean, that's important. And I'm sure all of us here want to have that same thing. A couple of things that I'm for, we'll give you, is term limits. I believe term limits are an essential part of Pennsylvania. If we put term limits in place, that's going to take care of the pension problem. Because if we do 8 years, they're not going to get a pension. We're going to save millions of dollars. Millions. Another thing that was brought up before, and I think Jerry mentioned it earlier, was bringing down the number of legislators. It was brought up and it was turned down because they wanted to take away from the Senate too. It passed the House, it went to the Senate, I believe, and the Senate struck it down. There are only 50 senators in Pennsylvania, but there's 203 legislators. That's ridiculous. Come on, we're not that big. 101 to me would be sufficient. 101 legislators, 50 senators. Double the districts. You're eliminating all that pension, all them. If we can get the term limits through, we don't have that. All that money that you're going to save on 101 legislators. So that's a big thing to me. The other thing is these property taxes that are so freaking burdensome on, especially the elderly. We need to get people in that are going to finally do something and go after it and keep going after it until it is done. School property taxes are ridiculous. The Democrats talk about a minimum wage. Yes, we are way below the times of everyone around us. The minimum wage needs to be brought up, but it cannot be brought up to what they're proposing. $15 an hour is just, it's you'll drive business out. I want to bring business in. I want to help businesses thrive. I want to be able to help create business. And that's one way to do it. We need to bring the minimum wage up just above our surrounding states. That way we're in a more competitive wage. And as I said, business growth. Voter ID is a big thing for me. With today's technology, why can't we have a little fingerprint? Bang. Okay, you can go vote. Simple as that. I am pro-life, I am pro-Second Amendment, and I have, like I said, a rescue dog. She is our world. I am pro animal rights. So anyway, thank you. Oh, by the way, I was a former Reading City Councilman 20 years ago, and I said I'd never get back into this again. I mean, I did a lot of wonderful things in the city. A lot of wonderful. I'm one of the council people that built the Santander Arena. So at least that's up for you. And we gave Reading Phillies the naming rights. What else did I want to touch on quick? Oh, and Kenhurst Borough Council, I serve on that now. They've been bugging me for years to help them, and I finally said yes. So that's where we're at right now. So now I want to go to Harrisburg, and I want to do good things for you, my grandchildren, and the rest of Pennsylvania. We're elected by our district, but we serve every single person in Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Anybody have a question for Vince? Come on, don't make me ask them all.
Do you feel that our governor robbed us of our constitutional rights because of this COVID thing?
Our governor is a tyrant. That is a do as I say, not as I do. No. And I would join Barry Jobbiak in impeaching that nut.
Okay. Our next person up is going to be Jim Cox, and following him will be Dave Maloney. So Dave, you can get ready for next. Republican Jim Cox is the incumbent running for the 129th PA House legislative seat, which consists of south and western part of Berks County and northern parts of Lancaster County. He resides in Sinking Spring with his wife Kelly and 5 children. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. Like the gentleman before me, I ran 14 years ago because I believe we need a future Pennsylvania to hand down to our children and grandchildren. My children were a lot younger back then when I first ran. My youngest now is 8 years old. The next one after that is 17 years old. So they've grown up right before my eyes. For those of you who are parents, you know what that's like. And so I see Pennsylvania right now at a little bit of a crossroads, and we're all seeing it. It's been touched on a little bit tonight. The importance of this election is unparalleled to prior elections, I think, in our particular generation. We've had some important ones, but I think right now, Pennsylvania and the rest of the country, we're at an absolute crossroads. We need individuals that are principled. We need individuals that know where they stand and aren't ashamed to state where they stand. And that's why I've been unabashedly pro-life my entire 14 years. I've sponsored bills, I voted for bills, I've asked to be on the health committee, which is the committee that primarily sees bills that end up affecting the pro-life area, the bills that change what's happening in healthcare clinics and things like that, the abortion clinics. I've been voting for all of those types of bills for as long as I've been on the health committee, and again, unabashedly pro-life. Second Amendment, that's the other big issue that we see quite a bit in Harrisburg. The issue right now is, as you're saying, people want to be able to protect themselves. It's never been more important in America and Pennsylvania to be able to protect yourselves with all the riots and things that have happened over the summer. It is never, ever going to be more important than right now that we maintain those Second Amendment rights, and that's something that I vow to continue to do. I'm currently serving as the Labor and Industry Chairman in Harrisburg. The way the system is set up in Harrisburg, you need seniority before you get the chairman, so before you get a chairman's position. I was fortunate enough, I requested and got the Labor and Industry Committee, and that was something that I knew was going to be important. This governor has been pushing for a minimum wage increase. He claims to be from business and that he understands business, but he clearly does not. The increase of the minimum wage, anyone who's run a business, anyone who's interacted with small businesses, they understand that increasing the minimum wage from the state level, pushing that up, That's going to force them to reduce their costs, reduce the number of hours for their existing employees, and it's going to cause them to ultimately have more unemployed people or more people that are paid higher, or fewer people that are paid higher, and so some of the work is not going to get done. It's a trade-off. That's the bottom line. I will continue to oppose an artificially induced minimum wage. Employers I talk to essentially say, look, I'm rating as much as I can, and I start them off at minimum wage, but they don't stay there for long if they're good workers.
Okay, he happens to be, Mr. Cox happens to be the main sponsor of the elimination of the school property tax. So, I'd like to get his take on why can't we get this done?
Right now, it's an easy answer. Everybody mentioned it. Governor Wolf. Somebody yelled it from the back, actually. I think it was one of my constituents, actually, who said, why can't we get it done? Governor Wolf, I sat down with him 3 different times in the earlier part of his administration, and I asked him, I said, if we get the bill to your desk, if we pass property tax elimination, will you sign it? He said, no. I said, what will you work with? He said, come back to me with something. I and a number of my colleagues, we got together. We put together, and you may have read about it in the newspaper, we put together a little bit of a bipartisan commission, if you will. We tried to get together with the Democrats and say, look, what can you guys vote for that the governor will support? We had the governor's office in there. We had some legislation that would have, and again, I know elimination is the best thing to do, but if the governor is not willing to sign complete elimination, you see what he is willing to sign. We had about 60% was one of the numbers that came out of the numbers that we had. I insisted, and others insisted, that if we do 60%, we also have to freeze. So if we froze your property taxes and then said you're going to get a 60% reduction, most people can live with that. That's all we can get this governor to agree to. We were moving that forward. We had, April was the date, or April was the month we were going to plan on voting that. Everyone remember what happened in March? Things got turned on their head. We had commitment from the majority leader at that time, who's now the speaker. We have no real obstacles in the House as far as our leadership, like we did when Mike Terzai was speaker. But now we have this little thing called Corona that's taken a big hit out of the budget. We're in a $5 billion hole right now. So attacking property taxes, I'm not going to stand here and lie to you. I'm not going to tell you that we're going to get it done. That would be wrong with me. I'm honest with my constituents. We're not going to get property tax elimination done. We're going to see if there's anything we can do once we get into next year, the new session, and we see what the new budget looks like. But we're going to do what we can with this governor. We'll see what he can sign.
We got to get rid of the unions, Jim.
Okay. All right, we have a last minute change in the program. Rod's going to talk to you about that.
Yeah, we don't really, things fall back. We made every effort to contact all the candidates. We missed one, and I don't know how we missed it, but we tried our best. So, we don't normally let a surrogate speak on behalf of the candidate. We're going to take some of the blame here, and we'll let Jesse come up here and have a couple of minutes, but we won't have time for Q&A, but at least give them time to at least state the case.
It's not my case. First of all, what a terrific turnout, and glad that so many people are engaged. As mentioned, my name is Jesse, but I'm actually here on behalf of Kelly, and I'm going to say some things in a moment which are going to sound weird coming out. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I apologize for not being able to be here in person. I had a previously scheduled town hall, which you're able to watch on my Facebook page if you'd like. I am a mother and a teacher, and I'm running to bring a fresh perspective to Harrisburg. The status quo has not been working for us. For years, we've been promised property tax elimination, yet here we are with one of the highest property tax rates in the nation, and yet our schools lack fair and equitable funding. As a state representative, I will deliver on my promise of property tax relief because I know the system isn't working for property owners or for public schools. I also recognize the problems small businesses and working families are facing, especially during this pandemic, which has seen big box stores stay open while independent shops were closed. I would fight for workers' rights while supporting those businesses facing uncertain futures. I believe in the and its amendments and take pride in my role as an ambassador for our country's history. I will be accessible, accountable to you, not special interests. I look forward to joining you at future meetings, and thank you for your time. So again, I'm here on behalf of Kelly McDonough, who is running in the 129 against my predecessor at this podium.
Sorry about that. I can't ask a question, but our time's so short. Okay, next we're going to hear from Dave Maloney. Representative Maloney services the PA 130 Legislative District in southeastern Berks County, married to his wife Deborah, and has 4 children. Welcome, Maloney, Representative.
Thank you so much. Yes, 4 children and my 8th grandchild on the way. For a man who was told he would not have any children. I do have a dog. His name's Sawyer. So here we are. We heard a lot of hot air. We heard a lot of stuff tonight.
You're right.
No, really, it's a very serious matter to run for public service, a public position, and I believe public service is probably one of the most important responsibilities that you can do. It's not something that is easy, and we are a citizens' legislature, which means we have representation. You are not elected as a king or a dictator, unlike our government. And it has been very difficult, as you heard tonight by numerous people, as to that separation of powers and what our founding forefathers envisioned for this great country. When you have a Supreme Court that is legislating from the bench, we have a serious problem, folks. It all happened in 2015 when many people stayed home and didn't vote. It was the most expensive election in the history of Pennsylvania to this day. So I share that with you for the seriousness of elections. I'm not going to stand here and tell you all my endorsements. I don't know how many constituents I have in here. I doubt it's more than 12. Most of them have been, all of them for that matter, have been kept up to date with a newsletter, with emails, with all the different things that I do to present the facts of what's happening in Pennsylvania. A couple things I do want to go to because I heard a lot tonight about property tax. So the property tax issue to me not only is number one, it probably is what drove me to not have much sleep at night, especially since I had served on a school board. And I'm going to tell you, it was a difficult thing to get your hands around, to understand the challenges we have, the different things that you heard tonight. Let me tell you something. There's no person who is going to be elected to Harrisburg and go fix it. It's not going to happen. But the constitutional amendment that you all got an opportunity to vote on in 17 is a huge deal. That is in my newsletter. It's something I wanted to touch on because it's now before the Commonwealth Court, and because of that measure, the judges are now going to address not only the funding formula, but on how to distribute money across the state. So on the homestead farmstead, because of the people of Pennsylvania that voted for that to be something that was important to them, the courts are now going to hear it. And to another measure that happened yesterday, see that flag on the wall there? That POWMIA flag? The bill that I sponsored that took me several years is on its way to the governor to be signed, to be hanging on every piece of Commonwealth property that flies the American flag.
Okay, before I go too far here, I am really concerned about this upcoming election and the way it's being handled. First of all, in the Constitution of the United States, there is an election day. It is the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. We have let so much stuff creep in. What is this early voting stuff? What is this voting by mail stuff? I don't get it. I think we need, and by the way, the Constitution does let the individual states decide how they run their elections. So, I believe our legislature could clean up our elections here in Pennsylvania. They could say it's just from there.
That's exactly what we tried, folks, on numerous occasions. And I'm glad she brought that up, because to the point that I told you, it's the Supreme Court legislating from the bench. We never legalized drop boxes. Don't forget it. We never legalized early voting, and there was compromises, there was discussions going on, and we certainly did not legalize extended voting to Friday. So just so you know that did not come from the legislature, that is coming from a rogue court.
Okay, now, I had scheduled Lamar Foley to speak, and I believe he is not here. Am I correct? Is Lamar Foley here? Okay. Also, I had not scheduled for Ryan Penzie to speak, and he is here, and he would like to speak. So, Ryan, are you here? I'm sorry I don't have information on him, but...
Not a problem. Well, in this case, two wrongs do make a right, so everything's going to work out just fine. But I want to thank everyone for allowing me to speak. I'm State Representative Ryan McKenzie. I represent portions of Berks and Lehigh counties in the State House of Representatives, and I'm proud to join my colleagues from Berks County. I think we work together tremendously well. The Republican caucus in Berks County is pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, no new taxes, for property tax elimination, and we are there fighting Governor Wolf to protect our freedoms every day that we're in session. The things that I want to touch on, those items that I just talked about. So no new taxes. Not only have I never voted for a tax increase, I've also voted to and passed legislation, have it signed into a law to eliminate certain taxes. Legislation that I had eliminated the inheritance tax for small family businesses. Because of that and my voting record, I've been endorsed by the PA Chamber and also the NFIB, which represents small businesses. I have a pro-life voting record since I've been in the legislature, and because of that, have been endorsed by the PA Pro-Life Federation. I have a pro-Second Amendment voting record, and because of that, I've been endorsed by the NRA and FOAC. And personally, I want to talk about another important issue, which is illegal immigration. I'm opposed to sanctuary cities, and I voted that way in the legislature. And also this session, I authored and got passed, against Governor Wolf's veto threat, legislation that required and mandated the use of E-Verify for the construction industry. And why that is so important is because illegal immigrants were coming to Pennsylvania, undercutting wages, and stealing American jobs from our workers. And so we stood up, and I got a bipartisan coalition of legislators, Republicans and Democrats. The governor said, I'm going to veto that legislation. But you know what? We had enough of us Americans who stood up for what is right, and we actually had the votes to override and stop a governor veto. And we got that passed, and it's now law. So with that, I'm going to conclude, but I just want to say thank you to all the Patriots for being here this evening. Thank you for what you do, and God bless America. Have a good night.
Okay, next is going to be Annette Baker. She's running for the state senate. Sorry I didn't give you a heads up there, Annette. Okay, Republican Annette Baker is running for a seat in the Pennsylvania State Senate in District 11. The 11th district consists of 32 Berks County townships and part of the city of Reading. Annette and her family reside in Brecknock Township. Welcome, Annette.
A lot of familiar faces for me out there. I appreciate a time to kind of introduce myself again. As Carol said, my name is Annette Baker. I'm running for the 11th Senatorial District. I am not a typical looking Republican, I think, for most folks. I look a little bit, I've been accused of being a liberal Democrat because of the way I dress. I'm going to come out of here a little bit, just because this is right in front of my face. I tend to be vertically challenged, as you can tell. So I wanted to say hi. I am running. I have a degree in environmental science, which again probably is not typical for most people in the Republican Party, but I am an environmental scientist by training. I'm an author, homeschool mom, former first responder. I had a number of different jobs. I was a librarian, assistant librarian, so I love books. And the reason I'm running is because I realized very quickly that our state is changing, our nation is changing, and it concerns me very much about the direction that we're heading. Our families got together and we talked about the idea of where we would see things, that concerned us. And my youngest son said, "Mom, I don't know what's going to be left for me." And he came to me and we talked about it and we decided that now was the time to run. And the reason I want to go to Harrisburg is because I want to bring some different ideas. I'm not a career politician. I don't consider myself a politician. I consider myself a public servant if I'm elected, because that's the way I want to be looked at. I want you to understand that I serve you. I serve the people of Berks County and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That's one of the main reasons that I'm running. I also want to let you know that my book that I authored has the Pennsylvania Constitution in it, as well as the U.S. Constitution, Declaration of Independence, facts about William Penn in Pennsylvania, because I want people to understand the founding of our nation, the founding of our Commonwealth, and why it's so important that we protect what we've been given. And that's why I'm running for the 11th Senatorial District. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know if you realize, but she is running against, got her name, Judy Schwank. She's running against Judy Schwank. Why, or what can you do for us that you think Judy is not doing for us?
How much time do we have? Yeah, that's a great question. Let me run through the litany first. Number one, I will not vote to keep Pennsylvania closed. I will stand with the other legislators in Harrisburg that have said, let us reopen safely, number one. I am pro-life. I am pro-Second Amendment. To borrow a Peg Looksick recommendation, my idea of gun control is use both hands. I support Second Amendment for sure. I've been endorsed by a number of gun rights advocacy groups. Obviously, being pro-life, I would be in the position where I would have voted to protect special needs Down syndrome children from being aborted just because they have Down syndrome. Obviously, property tax elimination is a very big issue for me, something that I have followed and encouraged and come up with some ideas that I'd like to see as ways to move the ball forward. Property tax elimination is the biggest issue that when I'm talking to people, doesn't matter where you live, people are telling me they're tired of high property taxes. Education for me is also a huge issue. I am a homeschool mom. I've also had my kids in public school, private school, so I run the gamut, and cyber school. And one of the things that Senator Schwank has supported, my opponent believes that we should limit the funding for cyber and charter schools. I do not agree with that. I believe every student should have the right to choose with their parents what educational situation works best for them. That's how we make students successful. And when parents are allowed to choose for themselves and their students where they want to have their kids go to school, that automatically invests that parent in that educational system. They are going to be more active in making sure that the school is running well, that they're involved with what's going on, and they will get involved to help improve their child's education. Thank you so much. God bless America. Thank you all.
question because it's tough to run against an incumbent. It's a hard thing, so we wish her good luck. Next speaker is going to be John Ammons. And John Ammons is a candidate. He's running against Chrissy Houlihan. Representative John Ammons, Republican John Ammons, is a candidate running for election to the U.S. Congress in the 6th Congressional District of PA, which covers part of Berks County and Chester County. John lives in West Grove with his wife Allison, where they have raised 3 children. Welcome, John.
Well, folks, I'm going to go fairly quickly because I don't want to stand between you and President Trump, all right? So, I'll put it very quickly. The reason I'm running is because I think our country has been on the wrong path for many years. Now, that was up until 2016. I feel a lot better since 2016. But when I got into this process was back in 2007, and I was very concerned about the direction of the country. That's what has motivated me for the last 12 years. I think it's very important that as government gets bigger and bigger and more intrusive, the aspects of security, freedom, and opportunity are lessened and lessened. And you can see that very clearly this year when you see a tyrannical governor. When he gets the power, what happens? Do we have more security? No. Do we have more freedom? No. Do we have more opportunity? No. And that's what we've seen, and it's clear to us about that. Just as an individual, I am I'm a husband, father, and grandfather. We've been married for 40 years. We just celebrated that this year. 3 great kids and 3 grandchildren, 2 of which have been born this year. I'm an engineer by education, and a little bit like Donald Trump, I didn't have a golden escalator to come down, but I had a 40-year career in business in industrial America as a plant manager and director of operations. And that's given me a lot of opportunity in regard to building organizations, leading strong teams, and problem solving. We need more of that in Washington, bringing common sense solutions, and that's what I will represent. More importantly, some of the key points. I am very much pro-life. We have been endorsed by 3 large organizations, Susan B. Anthony list, the National Right to Life, and the PA Pro-Life Federation. My opponent has an F rating. I have an A rating, okay? Very strongly pro-family. From a Second Amendment standpoint, I have an A rating with the NRA. I've been endorsed by the Gun Owners Against Crime. She has an F rating. From a business standpoint, I'm very much strong to grow good jobs in the economy. One of my things is to bring jobs, good jobs, back to the United States, and there's a whole aspect of that. I want to cut taxes. I will support Donald Trump cutting taxes down to 15%. That's what he wanted to do. He negotiated to 21, but we're going to go down. Okay. And she wants to raise, along with the Biden, $4 trillion of tax increases. And environmental, I'll just mention that very briefly. She's a proponent of the Green New Deal. I believe much more strongly in environmental conservation and doing things in a common sense, intelligent way. So that's just a wrap. I believe very strongly in the silent majority. We have the votes out there, but we need to get people out. Bad politicians are elected by good people who don't vote. So make sure you, friends talking to friends, neighbors talking to neighbors over the next 10 days. We can make this happen. Let's go do it. Now, here's the bell.
Okay, now, this gentleman's going to Washington, D.C. Wondering, on a national level, you heard me ask the question about the voting. On a national level, can we do something to stop this early voting, this voting by mail, and all that?
I would love to. I think it's very detrimental. I think it opens up way too many opportunities for fraud. So I will always stand to reduce that and put the genie back in the bottle. I don't know if it's possible, but I would always support that.
Anybody else have a question? Okay. Yeah, we would love to do that. Oh, go ahead.
You support an amendment on congressional term limits.
Term limits, absolutely. 3 in the House, 2 in the Senate, and I think there's actually a way to do it. I think if we did it in such a way that the people who are currently in are grandfathered, and then anyone else coming in are not, I think that would probably help give the boost to make it happen. If we did that, within 8 or 10 years, you'd have almost an 80 or 90% turnover. So absolutely, and I think there's a mechanism to do it.
Anybody else? That was a great question, by the way. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. I'm glad you came here. All right.
Well, I apologize for late in my running here, but you can imagine how we kept changing the target and candidates saying, I can make it at last minute, I won't be there. I'm on revision 5 of the agenda, but be that as it may, we're going to try to get through this. We have 2 more candidates to speak, and I'll let the challenger go first. Gary Wegman, and Gary, and that's the 9th congressional seat he's running for, and that serves Schuylkill and Berks County. Married, 3 children. And Gary, I'll shorten the bio by letting you speak as you see fit.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you kindly. Thank you to everybody for being here this evening. My name is Dr. Gary Wegman, and I'm running to be our next congressional representative in our 9th district. I'm a lifelong resident of Berks County. I'm practicing dentistry for 37 years, and I'm also a 5th-generation farmer. I own and operate a 100-acre working farm in the Ole Valley, along with my wife and 3 children. In the almost 40 years that I've been working in healthcare, I've noted a marked increase in the number of patients that I treat that cannot afford healthcare for themselves or for their families. Worse, I've seen an astronomical increase in the cost of prescription medications and our healthcare premium dollars. I don't hear a willingness in Washington, D.C. to address this issue, and it's a critical issue for all of us. My team is passing out information that I wrote to a survey by the Pennsylvania Farm Bureau and was distributed to all Farm Bureau members in the state of Pennsylvania. Please take this home with you tonight. It'll be good reading for you. Our district is tired of the politics of division. They're tired of Democrats trying to take down the president at his every move. They're tired of Republicans who won't bring legislation to the floor of the Senate and have a fair debate on its merits. I'm going to go to Washington and act in a nonpartisan manner to bring about real reform to health care, to improve our public education system, and to invest in our infrastructure and bring living wage jobs to the 9th district for everyone. Look, I've had a full career. I can fight for real change in Washington without having to be beholden to the special interest lobbyists or the political elites. I ask you to take a good look at what I'm talking about. I'm not an us versus them type of guy. I was at Decca Battery a couple weeks ago and had a tour. They have 250 jobs up there right now, ready for people to work. Good living wage jobs with great benefits. And they can't find people trained with the qualities to work them. We need to change our educational system and ramp up our counselors moving people into our career and tech centers, because those people are being trained for the next generation of jobs. We also need to ask ourselves, why is it that our people with, okay, I'm sorry, I'll take questions. Well, why are people with diabetes paying 10 times more for insulin than anybody else in the world? I mean, Why this remdesivir we gave the president? $3,000 a dose at a hospital. Cost the company $10 to make. Okay, they may have had R&D costs going in, but we've got to have legislation that controls monopolies, whether it's in the agricultural sector or it's in the healthcare sector. And we got to send somebody there. As a doctor, I'm trained to treat and diagnose the problem and treat the problem, not the symptom. Thank you.
We're not going to have time for a debate or even a semi-debate. However, I'll ask Mr. Wegman to be off to the side for the moment so that the incumbent Dan Newsom can come up to speak, and I'll have one or two questions that both can answer. Okay, thank you. Okay, Congressman Dan Newsom. And productive member of this community in Congress. He grew up in a middle-class family, and I'm not going to go through a long bio. He's been here before, we know him, and I'll let Dan address the issues and speak as he sees appropriate. Dan?
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Rod. How's everybody? Oh, we got about 11 days to go, something like that. We got a debate tonight. I think it's going to look pretty good. Hey, a couple of things. My opponent, Dr. Wegman, mentioned something about special interests. I want to tell you this. My special interest is the same as the president's special interest, the people. I guarantee you my only special interest is the people that I work for, that are our constituents. We treat them with the utmost respect because that's the way the Constitution requires. Something else that just came up. One thing that the president did virtually single-handedly was related to insulin. Do you know about a year ago, insulin was costing, right, so those who know or not, about $600 every 2 weeks. Now it's down to $70, or every 2 months, I'll apologize. Now it's down to $70, and I had a couple of constituents actually give it to me just to show the proof of what the president has done. You know, folks, clearly we have a very, very important election. I think most of you do know me. Rod began giving somewhat of a description. I was in business for 25 years. I served as revenue secretary. He mentioned that I think all of us came from middle-income, middle-class families. My dad is a police officer, so law and order is something as well that's on the president's side of the ledger rather than the potential vice president's side of the ledger. We have such clear differences in this election. I mean, you know, it would take me an hour to go through it, from just pro-American positions, lower taxes, regulations, right? Law and order. How about that? How about that? You know, we sum this election up to be a number of things, but first and foremost, it is about who our leadership is going to be. And to me, it's the worst sort of leadership when any elected official, or anybody for that matter, puts their short-term political gains ahead of the long-term good and siding with those that are causing lawlessness in our streets for the purpose of frankly prolonging the problem rather than solving the problem is terrible leadership, and such people should be frankly voted out. We have a very important decision that we have to get all of us out to vote for. You know, President Trump has made a great economy in Pennsylvania once. He's going to do it again. We have a plan. That plan is going to be initiated. Biden's response to that is completely opposite. We're for border security, therefore open borders. We're for citizens vote. They want illegals to vote. We're for our citizens to receive affordable health care. They want to give free health care to illegals. Now that's what they're about. So that's just a few examples. I love the Berks Patriots, right? Love Berks County. It's an honor to serve. I think I met your expectations, lived up to my promises the last 2 years as a conservative Republican, helping President Trump initiate and carry out the America First agenda. I ask you to give me your vote, your support to do that for another 2 years. Thank you very much.
Okay, in the interest of time, again, the highest office that is campaigning, and we're cutting time. I'm going to ask one question from here, and if there's anything out there that needs to be asked to both of them, fine. But my question to both of these gentlemen is this. We've had all kinds of success with the president regarding job creation and lack of or reduced unemployment or even the minorities, and everything was going well. And just by the time things looked like they were really going to get somewhere, bingo, we hit a virus. And the economy tanked. My question is, from the circle in Washington, is this medical necessity to have this country in a state of quandary and shutdowns and quarantine, or are we looking at some kind of political strategy which has little to do with the medical profession? I asked Mr. Boozer as one in D.C., and the same question for Mr. Wegman as one in the medical profession.
You know, there's many people who have suffered from this pandemic. A lot of it's self-inflicted by ourselves shutting down our economy, and the people at the bottom end of the payroll ladder are hurt the worst. Yes, there's a lot of people who have lost their lives to this. The numbers that they're citing, a lot of those people are already very ill. Doesn't matter. We still have to take it seriously. But let's talk about where we are and how we go forward. We need real-time testing. We're told they're here and they're coming out. That way you can check yourself at work, check yourself going to school, and we'll find out who's carrying and shut it down before things spike out of control and we can open up. We're not going to be able to have a healthy economy without a healthy society. They're not mutually exclusive. So we're going to have to work together to figure this out. I disagreed with our governor when he shut the small businesses down for as long as he did. Our floral shops and our flooring contractors, they can protect their clients every bit as well as the large big box stores. But they lost out on Mother's Day, on Easter, and on graduation ceremonies. It hasn't been good. There's a lot of blame to go all the way around here. But we can do better. And the first thing we got to do is know where it's at and shut it down there so that we continue to remain open. Thank you.
Okay, so listen, our president addressed this head on. Our president stopped the flights coming in from China. That was at the end of January when that action was taken. Meanwhile, Speaker Pelosi, Governor Cuomo, and others were saying how the risk is low. He acted decisively. He was very inclusionary. He brought business in. He asked, he talked to people and said, all right, how can we lean forward? How can we stay open? How can we stay open safely so we can keep our economy at least afloat? Slow down, not a shutdown. And he did, in fact, maintain the 10th Amendment, of allowing each governor to run things in the manner that they saw best, following CDC guidelines. Because South Dakota is a lot different than Massachusetts. The president has respect for that. The problem is that we have a governor that got carried away with himself, frankly made a number of very serious mistakes. Instead of talking about health and safety and being in line there and the right therapeutics, and if you feel symptoms, get tested, quarantine until that point, he shut down Main Street. He picked and chose which businesses could stay open, let the big box stores, and by the way, most of their products come from China, which is, churches were shut down. All right, our constitutional freedoms are not fair weather liberties that belong to us during the good times. They belong to us during the good times and the bad times. And it's a governor's responsibility, or any elected official's responsibility, to follow the rule book, which is our U.S. Constitution as well as our Pennsylvania Constitution. So I think a lot of things were done wrong. We need to learn from where we've been, and we need to move forward in a smart, safe manner. We've got someone who's looking to run for president right now, or is running for president. Joe Biden wants to be president, and his running mate, really better known as the Harris, is already threatening closing down our economy again. Okay, look, we must appreciate those that are vulnerable in our society. We must appreciate that this is a contagious virus, yet we need to be smart enough to not lose livelihoods, okay, and don't make the cure worse than the sickness. So we can do it. There's a way to do it. Many states have done it well. We just need to be smart enough to, aggressive enough to work in that way. So thank you.
It's going to be close. 9 o'clock's coming quickly, and unfortunately, we're going to have to call it an evening, except to get a few pieces of business to attend to. We have a question over here. We'll take one question and have to move on, so if you make it a question and not a speech, we'll get it in.
Yeah, she asked me a question about Joe Biden, who's running for president. I'm running for the 9th District to be our congressional representative, to represent everybody here. And I'm representing Gary Wegman's plans and what I think are good ideas. We got to get away from this partisan corners and partisan football and start going with good ideas. We pay these people $174,000 a year, and we get gridlock. There's too much of that. Let's start talking about real issues. I'm not into playing.
Chrissy Houlihan said the same thing.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, but the candidate's time is what we have to make sure we get in. I appreciate questions, but unfortunately, we're about out of time, and I'll let the congressman respond.
I want to have these questions answered. I must say the people came, are standing up for their beliefs, and I don't need to go listen to a debate when I have the opportunity to hear accurate candidates.
Any question you have, sir? Yes, sir. Well, sir, thank you for your service very much. We honor our veterans. I do every day. I agree with the president's outlook. This is another time I agree with the president. People say to me, why do you agree with the president so much? Well, maybe because I believe in the policy approaches, the new way of doing things, the better way of doing things than we're done in the past. Is conservatism better? I think with the president's words and plans and how he's handling many of our troops in different parts of Afghanistan and Iraq and Syria are appropriate. I also think that I voted for every military appropriations bill that we had, and true, over $750 billion. We fell well behind. As soon as I got into Congress, I spent a fair amount of time over at the Pentagon. They described to me very clearly that we
fell way behind in cybersecurity, we fell way behind in space. Many of our very important aircraft and ships were not equipped to operate properly. Our troops weren't being trained right. So we didn't need to do that, but yeah, we got to keep people, we got to keep our men and women to the best of our ability out of harm's way. Now, just add this, there's still some serious dangers in the world. There's no question the president and his team did a great job on ISIS. I mean, we're truly not hearing much about them, but I did. I took 2 congressional trips this year. I'm not one big on the congressional trips. One was to the border, which was incredibly important. I saw a lot, learned a lot. Another one was to Israel. And when I was in Israel, we were on the border of Syria and Lebanon. And we could see the heads full of flags flying. Those heads full of flags are doing their best to set themselves up to attack Israel. So it's still a very serious world out there that we have to, dangerous world, that we have to be equipped to protect.
Okay, folks, I'm sorry that we can't have more time with our Congress candidate and our congressman like the others that showed, but okay, we'll give you a minimum time to go ahead.
Yep, I'll be in the back after to talk more. But this is what congressmen do. They decide when and where we send our treasure into harm's way. That's one of the most important roles that we have as your representatives to Congress. We had the Taliban in 2002 pushed to the north of Pakistan and totally out of Afghanistan, and all we had to do was finish them off. But instead, we divided our resources, uncorked Iraq, and now we're negotiating 20 years later with the Taliban to give them half the country. What kind of nation are we? All right? We have to be smarter than this. All right? We just gave the Pentagon $740 billion to fund their programs through 2021. And we can't pass a stimulus plan to put Americans back to work. We spent $6 trillion over there in the past 20 years. Let's start spending some money on ourselves, but it won't happen. It won't happen if we don't put different people there.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to have to call time out. I'm sorry. Till our folks our worker bees are done cleaning this place up, I'll catch the debate on the replay on Fox, I suppose. But I thank you very much for the gentlemen here and those that showed up tonight. And hope you learned something. I now turn the conclusion of the program over to Sam to do a wrap.
Folks, you've heard about 6 times that we're behind schedule. That meant that Sammy spoke too long, I think. Okay, Linda, come on up. We're going to do the 50-50 raffle. Steve, you're on deck. Beth?
Okay, so for 50-50 tonight, for the 50-50 tonight, we brought in $270, so that is $135. And so we have Berner here who's going to draw our winning. All right, winning ticket number 384137. 137. Right here.
Folks, just quiet down a minute. We're going to have the gun raffle and prayer. Just give us 2 minutes, please. Thank you. Steve? You okay? You guys squared away? Fantastic. Hey. Wow. Hey, folks, we got $30 back from the 50-50 for a donation. Thank you so much. Okay. Steve? Our Purple Heart recipient, Bill Power, I believe it is going to draw for the rifle. Shotgun. $066, Vince Gagliardo.
Congratulations, Vince. We're going to conclude. Before Linda does a closing prayer, I just want to tell you again, we want to thank Commissioner Christian Leinbach for sponsoring tonight's meeting. Again, thank you to Christian Leinbach. And we're going to close with a prayer. Linda?
Okay, please bow your head and close your mouth. Okay. Lord, bless us all and keep us safe on our way home. We won't meet till after the election, so please lead us all to the polls. Amen.
Thank you, folks.